You're listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and with my co-host,
Ashley Hayes,
we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry.
Today's guest is Larissa Cornelius. Larissa owns nFold, a South African proposal consultancy that inspires success through words that win. She is the current chair of the Association of Proposal Management Professionals, SA chapter. She has over 17 years of business development and operational experience. She's a certified APMP professional and was voted as one of the 40 under 40 APMP professionals in 2018. By combining proposal best practice with her operational and sales background, she actively promotes the proposal profession and helps businesses to win more. She is passionate about proposals, following best practices, as winning proposals ethically improves lives by creating and retaining jobs. Welcome, Larissa, to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Larissa, we love to start kind of where people began, where you were born, where you went to school, where you grew up.
Okay, so I was born in Johannesburg, which is a main metropolitan area in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to school. I went to quite a lot of schools as my mom. I was an only child with my mum. And so I moved quite a lot of schools and moved to quite a lot of houses in terms of my foundation schooling. And then in high school, I stayed at the same high school, which was the National School of the Arts, where I studied drama. And drama is actually where I got a lot of my love for some of the aspects I enjoy doing within the proposal environment, which is, is understanding sort of the psychology of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been a real city girl. And so as I've grown up in South Africa and gone to school, I went and I sort of took a leap year and had the opportunity to go and work in Ireland for a little while, where I actually did silver service and catering of all things, and then fell into operations management for call centers, which was my sort of career before proposals.
Oh, that's fascinating. So how long were you doing that sort of operational stuff for call centers before you entered the world of proposals?
I was involved with the call centers for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And our company at the time actually got acquired by a larger group of companies. And I had the opportunity at that point in time to request to try something new. At that point in time, I felt that I needed to sort of move on from operations, and there was an opportunity to change direction, as they had a position in their business development office for actually an account manager on the sales side, which is kind of how I discovered this whole world about bids.
Yeah. So you started in the sales side then?
Yes, I did. And in fact, knowing what I know now, mostly from an APMP best practice perspective, I was probably taught all the wrong things. The salesperson who took over, that I was taking the position over, was handed over his work to me and sort of said, if a customer says you want something, you need to give it to them now. You need to just get as many things on your pipeline. Doesn't matter if they're real or they're not real, because at least then some of them will happen. So it was a very sort of immature sort of sales process that I was sort of taught to be in, and sort of thrown in sort of the deep end of cold selling and farming accounts, which was very interesting. And actually, that's how I got into bids, because I went to our bid office at the stage, which was far more mature than the salesperson who trained me. And I kind of went, I need a proposal and I need it tomorrow. And she proceeded to laugh at me and go, no, that's not quite how it works. And I was really, really lucky at the time. Azan was a huge mentor for me is that she spent the time to explain the logic of why it doesn't work that way. And kind of that's when the sort of light went on, or what I like to call the light bulb moment. Mm-hmm. And I kind of said, okay, I'm going to learn how to do proposals so that I can do proposals and I'm not reliant on this bid team. And in the end, I actually fell in love with the whole process.
Yeah. So what exactly about the process and proposals really fascinates you or drives that passion or love?
Well, I think there's a few things. For me, mostly, I love, and I guess, like I said, from my drama days, and, you know, should I have had the opportunity to have done further studies, which I did do on the operational side, mm-hmm. I love and I'm fascinated by psychology. Mm-hmm. And I think it's this the psychology around proposals and winning business and telling stories, for me, that resonates and makes the job that we do very exciting. It's, you know, it's about the power of words and the impact that has on people, and the ability to help to win business. And through doing that, you know, it empowers people and job creation. And so I think that's a very exciting aspect of it. I also think that it's kind of nice, you know, from a sales perspective, sometimes you feel you can be doing a lot of meetings and positioning with clients, and, you know, you feel like the sales is moving forward, but it can sometimes feel like a lot of work, but you're not always getting the results. And I kind of just like having, at the end of the day, that finished product. And especially if you've done it properly and you've done a proper strategy, and you know, you really have spoken to a customer's requirements, and then kind of seeing that sort of strategy really being articulated effectively into a document, and then, of course, winning the bid. I mean, it feels good to win.
Yes. Absolutely. So it sounds like you have likely worked on a bunch of different proposal efforts and captures and sales over the years. Do you have a memorable proposal effort that stands out to you?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot, but I think the one that was probably the most memorable for me was when I took over the role of the lady I mentioned, who kind of laughed at me about doing a proposal the next day. She moved on to the bigger group of companies, and I took over her role of managing the bid office in I suppose a relatively short space of time, having discovered proposals. And at that time, the company was a lot smaller than it is now. It was there was the sort of first bid that needed to be run that was a multiple business unit bid. And in that time, we had over 30 people in the team, which was massive. Now I've dealt with teams a lot bigger than that in a bid process. And I got involved in that specific bid because I'd obviously gone to my bosses to say I needed additional challenges. And so getting involved in a multiple business unit bid, that was my first one. And I just finished my APMP Foundation certification. So I was extremely excited to try and apply all the best practices that I learned. And I'm still extremely proud of the outcomes of that bid process, because we really did everything from what I like to think from a best practice perspective, by the book almost. Yeah. We had a dedicated war room. We had an agreed team that we met regularly. We literally went and put a storyboard that was literally physically stuck around the room in terms of breaking down the structure of what we wanted to provide the client. We had massive insights and inputs around the clients and positioning that we had done from a business development perspective for the solution. We even had the executive team work with us right through the weekend, making sure that the document was 100% completed, to ensure that the right reviews took place. And so from that perspective, it was extremely exciting. And at the time, it was one of the biggest bids that the company had won within its within its tenure at that stage. Obviously now
Wow.
it's still a big bid, but at that point in time, I mean, it was just record breaking for the company.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a great one.
It was exciting. I can't say everything went perfectly and everything was great. I think at that stage as well, I was not very mature in terms of the bid management process, and I really wanted to prove myself. So my boss at the time, who now is a good mentor and friend of mine, she still likes to tell the story, which is, I think, a little cringeworthy. But at some point, we had received quite a lot of the content quite late, and I needed to review it, and I'd caught a stomach bug. And I was literally working right through the evening, typing out with a bucket there. Probably the healthiest bid experience. So certainly one that has stuck in my mind for a long time. But the results in the end were certainly worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Working through a stomach bug can never be fun.
No, absolutely not. And certainly wouldn't recommend it from a work-life balance perspective. And I've learned how to manage not getting into those situations a little bit better over the years.
That's always good. So Larissa, you are our first guest from South Africa. Can you share with us some insights of maybe how the South African government and commercial procurements work and how they might be different from, procurements elsewhere?
Sure, absolutely. I think that the first thing that stands to mind when I'm speaking to our international counterparts is that in South Africa, our government tenders are still extremely manual. And what I mean by manual is that they are generally hard copy based. The tender documents are relatively large and have to be filled in by hand in pen. Have to have each page initialed. If you make a mistake sometimes you even have pricing schedules that are over 60 pages long that you have to handwrite. And if you make a mistake, you can't use Tipex. You have to cross it out and make sure it's initialed. And if it's not initialed, you could be disqualified. So very onerous from a submission, compliance, and production perspective.
Yeah.
I'd say that's probably one of the biggest challenges. I think the other thing that we've seen in South Africa is that because of various elements to uplift previously disadvantaged individuals and to give better opportunities to Black-owned small businesses, there's been a lot of changes in our regulations to try and open up the market more for some small businesses to contribute to our economy. And as a result, we've seen that a lot of our responses, there's an extensive portion that is required for us to make sure that our responses deal with localization within specific areas and also the upliftment of previously disadvantaged individuals in our response. And generally, it's actually mandated that any contract that is above 50 million, 30%, and it could be higher than 30% of the contract value, must be awarded to designated small businesses. And so we find that not only are we focusing on putting a response together, we have very mandated subcontracting partnerships that we have to look at as part of our submissions. And that's become a very big part of our tendering process as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. The small business and the disadvantaged business thing is a little similar to U.S. government contracting, where not all procurements, but many procurements will mandate, 32% go to small business, and some of them to, women-owned small business, some of them to veteran-owned small businesses in different categories. So there is some similarity there, although our process is definitely not fill-in-the-blank manual. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, no, it's quite onerous. And in fact, the nice thing about, because I'm very involved at the moment, I'm the current chair for the South African chapter of the APMP. We have a memorandum of understanding with the State-Owned Enterprise Procurement Forum. And so we've been doing a lot of engagements with our procurement teams, and what we have done is that the government has now put out a new procurement bill. And, we've had the opportunity, obviously public have the opportunity to comment. And so we've started to put feedback and do workshops on, suggestions of how they can streamline the process. One, to be a lot more open to small businesses, but to ensure that the process is a lot smoother, such as electronic submissions, electronic signatures, where at the moment, that is just a major, major delay. And it's as intense as making sure that, copies have to be certified. You have by commission of oaths, and they can't be older than 3 months. And just having to do that regularly, especially for small businesses, just becomes an onerous process. Right. From an administrative perspective. And our file sizes, just to give you an idea, when I'm talking about the administrative work, is, I've worked on bids where we've literally had to hire a truck to go and deliver the copies required, where we've had over 10 files just as an original file or response. And then you obviously have the copy responses. So it's quite intensive, especially if you're working on more complex bids like your engineering and infrastructure bids. Then that's the kind of situation you end up with. So it's a very different challenge, as well as still trying to be persuasive. And we generally only given 21 working days.
Oh my gosh.
To put our responses together, provided that the salesperson has been proactive and given it to you and hasn't sat with it for a while on their desk.
Can you tell us 3 things that not many people know about you?
Okay. What are 3 things that many people don't know about me? I bungee jumped off the highest commercial bungee jumping bridge in Blowkrans, which is in the Eastern Cape. That my original dream or career aspiration was to be an actress. And what else do people not know about? That's a very good question. I think I sometimes share too much, so I'm fairly open about things. Is that sometimes I actually do like to give away control and not to be in control. I think most people know me to be quite a control freak, and I'm certainly, my personality is certainly that way, that as much as I'm organized in my sort of work life, things must be processed and organized. I'm the complete opposite in my personal life. I don't like to have things planned. I like things to just be sort of spur of the moment, and that's a huge frustration for my husband, actually. So yeah, I'd say those are the 3 things.
I can totally relate to that. And I have the same conflicts with my boyfriend. He hates that I just go with the flow, and he's a much more structured person in our personal lives. All right, Larissa. So we're curious to hear about your business and your entrepreneurial journey that led you to owning a consultancy, nFold.
Okay, so it's an interesting one, and I still think I'm still very much a baby in my entrepreneurial journey. Mm-hmm. nFold has been around since 2001. It was founded by Sandy, who actually founded the South African chapter of the APMP.
Okay.
And was very instrumental in me falling in love with proposals and best practice aspects. And Sandy was actually our supplier at one of at my previous company around our proposal best practices. And she was looking to sell the business because she's relocating to the UK for a little while. And one day, I'd been very involved with the APMP, and I had taken, I was managing a strategic bid office, and I was sort of playing a consultancy role in our company because we supported over 200 different businesses and from various industries. So I was kind of already doing consulting. It was just internal. So it was a little bit different. It was a little easier to sell because we were an internal overhead, and businesses didn't see it necessarily as a cost. And I found out that Sandy was still selling the business. And one day at our APMP AGM, I don't know, a sort of light bulb clicked, and I kind of went, I've actually been preparing for this all my life. And I thought, okay, well, let me have a chat to Sandy. I'm sure she'll give me plenty of reasons not to do it. And it just worked out that, it was just a match made in heaven. I already was aligned. I've already done every single masterclass. I even repeated some of the masterclasses. So I took over the business, and in the end of March, I celebrated my first year of owning nFold. We had our best revenue year that we've had yet. So I'm comforted. Wow. I feel quite proud that we were able to achieve that, considering I was really fresh. I'm certainly learning by fire as it goes, but I'm absolutely blessed that we have amazing consultants. Anneke and Eric support us and have been involved with nFold for well over 10 years. And we've got incredible clients, clients that have been loyal with us and been with us since 2001. And we've got new clients that have come in that have just been incredibly supportive and see the value in terms of what we deliver. And so that has been spectacularly exciting. Yeah. I think there's a lot of opportunities and growth to increase the maturity of the bid environment within South Africa and the bid offices within South Africa. And, there's a lot of attention at the moment in South Africa around state capture, prior to COVID-19, where, it's sort of brought to the light the sort of governance and the strategic role that bids and tenders play within the overall socio-economic environment. And so I think that's also highlighted to the forefront to bigger companies and to other companies, the need, and I think with COVID, certainly the need and the importance of bids within the business environment to win business. Your proposal is just playing more and more of an important role in doing that. So the better we get at it, the more likely companies and customers can win more. And so, passionate about doing that. But still learning a lot. I can't say, every day, every customer, every bid, as is different. And people have different ways of working and different areas of importance that they want to focus on. And so from that perspective, that's been extremely exciting for me and very comforting that, clients are happy and that they get value and they're finding the value. Otherwise, they wouldn't stay clients and be asking for more business. So from that perspective, it's fantastic.
It sounds very rewarding.
It is. I'm loving it. I think it's a bit of a roller coaster. You have those days and, you're not always sure you're doing everything as it needs to be done, or you're spending a lot of time on delivery and not necessarily doing enough on promoting the business. So I'm still learning that balance. Life-work balance is certainly, I think, in most people in the bid environment, we all trying to figure that out. But being an entrepreneur, I think that's thrown my balance off a hell of a lot more.
So you're very involved with APMP, particularly in the South African chapter. When did you become involved with APMP?
I've been involved since 2010. So I've been around. 2010 is sort of, my mentor at the time that I mentioned. She suggested I do foundation, after my sort of first year of working in bids and proposals. I went and did that. And since then, I've been absolutely hooked on best practice. I try and read every proposal book that's out there, every sales book that's out there, attend every sort of seminar that I can get my hands on. It's really, there's amazing insights. There's trends that are changing regularly that can provide the competitive edge. And sometimes it's good just to revisit stuff that you already know to refresh yourself on it. So I was on the committee for 3 years. I took a sabbatical for about 2 years. Then I was asked to join on as a director I was on a director for a while, and then I was the only director that hadn't been chair. So this year, next year is my job to be the chair. We do have a voting process that we do at our AGM, so I'm very honoured to be able to be chair this year and next year. And yeah, so very, very involved. I think it's absolutely critical that if we are going to grow the profession, if we're going to grow the career, we want to grow and be taken seriously as a profession, we have to be working towards a standard. And that's really what the APMP is about. It's about establishing and setting that standard. It's about providing certification. It's about providing and uplifting the standard and the nature of what we deliver. It's about having a standard ethical approach in terms of how we deal with bids. And I think it's absolutely critical to have that as a base benchmark in terms of professionals. But again, it's only as good as people attend webinars, attend events, use the body of knowledge, and utilize some of the lessons and some of the best practices in the actual environments and in their proposals and in their solutions, because that's where you're going to get the results ultimately.
Absolutely. That's such a great point. You talked a little bit about, some of the initiatives that APMP is doing in South Africa and the MOU with government and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit more about the APMP bid community in South Africa and maybe some of the other unique things that you guys are doing?
Sure. So our bid community, from an APMP perspective, we've got just over 200 members. I would like to see that growing. We're seeing a huge increase now in bigger, larger companies requiring APMP certification, and certainly for their senior bid managers, or uplifting their staff with the certification, because then they know that the people that are supporting their bids, because ultimately there's a huge accountability, there's a huge responsibility as the bid is the basis of the contract, to make sure that they have people that are fully and properly equipped to be able to put the document together. Even your bid administrators, it's not just about collating information. It's about understanding the accountability of what that information is, why it needs to be accurate, so that if it is ever put under the microscope, that the business and the risks of the business are mitigated. We have a very vibrant community. What really amazes me about the APMP South Africa, and this is actually APMP International, having recently gone to the BPC Europe conference, is I found it quite amazing, even in sort of the bigger events, and as we're getting new members, it's sort of a great way of feeling when you get together. It kind of feels like you're at home. You have sort of like-minded individuals. You can share ideas. It's also sometimes a good therapeutic sessions to kind of go, oh, you also experience those problems and getting delays. Yes. Oh my gosh, how do you handle it when, somebody doesn't appreciate that? Or how did you get buy-in to be seen as being more strategic? So I think it's great from that perspective. We're very face-to-face type of people. I think South Africans in general are very, we love to hug, and we love to be together, and we love to share our wine together. So I think COVID is going to pose some adjustments in terms of that. But yeah, we've got a great, thriving community. We've got an amazing volunteer committee that dedicate their time to driving initiatives. And, we all do it as a volunteer basis, because we know that it means it's about uplifting the standards. It's about making sure that we help to create and retain jobs and sustain our economy. So we're extremely passionate about making sure that if we're going to do that, let's do it right. Let's make sure people are professional. Let's make sure businesses are ensuring people are effectively equipped. In terms of initiatives, I started on our committee a portfolio called Strategic Partnerships, and that's where our Memorandum of Understanding falls in. And really, what that was about is about starting to connect with other professional associations, procurement associations, sales associations, our engineering counterparts that, our engineering professionals, for example, and really getting together to say, how do we, first of all, spread the news and inform people around APMP, but also to hear what happens on the other side. I mean, what we're doing is we're delivering bids to procurement, and we've made great strides in our partnership and memorandum of understanding with a company called Smart Procurement and the State-Owned Enterprise Procurement Forum, which allows us to have engagements where we've had speakers from, well, the other side come and speak to us and say, what are the common mistakes that bidders make? And it's given us a chance to also have our sessions to say, but you know what, these are the mistakes we see you guys are making. And it's about creating meaningful engagements where we're not only adding value to members, but we're also starting to work together. And this is exciting for me, where we're starting to work together to contribute and have a voice in our procurement processes, to have a voice to improve how we're dealing with bids from both a private and a public sector space, by having these open engagements, which I think is extremely exciting, because the only way we're going to do it is to work together. As we've seen, procurement is starting to focus on uplifting their skills and the strategic nature. And, if you look at the likes of the Professional Association for the procurement professionals, they're certainly sitting at higher numbers than we are from an APMP perspective internationally. But it does not help if your procurement professionals are getting more professional, but those responding to tenders aren't, because governance, risk, compliance, all of these issues have to be a two-way street. If you're not complying, then they have to reissue tenders. And so the idea about this is really to get us to start working together, to start making sure that we uplifting both sides of things, we're promoting that professionalism. And, for me, that's probably one of the most exciting engagements. But we're also starting to get exposure to other professional associations, learning how do they do it? How do we get involved with their members that are responding to tenders so we can build awareness? And I think that's probably the biggest thing. And I know this is common across all of the countries, because I've spoken to the other APMP chapter leaders, is that there's still not enough awareness that there is a professional association for proposal and business development people to actually do this. It's about capture management. It's about the editors. It's about the graphic designers that get involved. It's about the sales guys. It's about the small businesses who need to put proposals together. These are all members or potential members that can benefit from what the association delivers. And so I think it's really about building that excitement. And, we're now starting to get to a point with these memorandums of understanding where we're starting to get some press attention, some radio time. And that all helps a lot to build knowledge about it, because once people are members, provided they're using all the benefits, they generally stay members for years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they become advocates as well. And the more advocates you have, the more serious our profession gets. And, and that's why it's about striving for what is that next step of excellence.
Yeah, so when did you first meet Sandy?
I met Sandy in 2010. When my mentor said I needed to learn, when I wanted to start being proactive about learning how to do proposals. At the time, I did Sandy's course, which is a course that we still offer at nFold. Obviously, it's been updated a bit. Called Persuasive Proposals, based on Dr. Tom Sand's book of the same name. And I learned so much. I had so many light bulb moments that, I know as with best practice, if you don't, before you know it, it's sort of not logical, but once you know it, it becomes so logical and you're like, why haven't you done that before? And Sandy, and then we are like, as I mentioned, the company that I was working at, Sandy was instrumental in establishing our sort of bid process and our bid training that we used to regularly run with our groups. And so I did a lot of her courses again. repeated a lot of those courses again in my tenure at EOH. And that was really exciting to make sure that we built in those correct best practices and getting to work really closely with Sandy from that perspective. And again, as I said, I was very involved in the APMP, so I knew Sandy from the APMP side of things. And yeah, I'd like to say that now, Sandy and I are not only colleagues, because she is still involved with nFold until she relocates to the UK later this year. But she's become a good mentor and friend as well.
That's amazing. And she sounds like a great one to have as a resource for sure, being incredible. Particularly one of South Africa's proposal greats.
Definitely.
So you've been very involved with APMP and received numerous awards, APMP 40 Under 40, APMP Fellow. Can you tell us a little bit about those awards and, kind of what they mean to you?
Sure. I haven't got my fellowship yet. I wish.
Oh. Okay.
I'm hoping to get to that stage at some point, definitely. But before nFold, and nFold used to sponsor the APMP South African Awards, and we had people like Nigel Dennis and Tom Sand, for example, and Sandy used to judge our executive summary competition. Mm-hmm. And so again, like I said, this was way before I was a director of APMP, because I can't enter into our competitions now at South Africa. But at that point, I won three. I didn't win the first year, but the second year I won the award 3 years in a row, and then I stood down to let other people win. But I'm glad that we're now continuing that journey. And then I think it was in 2018 that I was listed as I received the achievement of being 40 under 40, one of the 40 under 40 APMP professionals. And so yeah, that was a lovely I suppose notch on my belt around I suppose the work that I'd done with the APMP and the strategic inputs and hopefully value that I added into the organizations that I was working with. I want to just add in terms of that, for those who are listening, I certainly would love to recommend that, APMP International run competitions regularly. APMP South Africa runs an annual one. Is that the best way to benchmark your responses and to improve your responses is to enter for those competitions. The one we had in South Africa, we gave everybody a benchmarking report that entered. And the benchmarking report did not give who competed and who entered, because we obviously want to make sure we achieve confidentiality. But what it did do is it gave your percentage against a certain set of criteria. It gave you feedback of improvement, and it gave you a percentage of how you scored versus others. And it's a brilliant way of benchmarking and getting feedback and improvements. So I highly recommend people apply and join in those awards, because again, that uplifts the standard. It gives you improvements, and it also starts to help you to build those confidence. And even if you lose, like I said, I lost the first year that I attended, and I'm sure, as people improve and as standards improve, your chances change. So enter in and learn as much as possible and get involved as much as possible is the best suggestion I can give anybody in terms of growing their career, their profession, and just yourself.
We're going to mix things up now. We have our surprise rapid fire questions round. So hopefully you're ready. These are super fun, and I'm excited to learn a little bit more about you through them.
Amazing, Larissa. I mean, good to kind of learn more about you already. Let's maybe start with some of the things you already mentioned. How did this whole actress thing came about, Larissa? And how did you kind of, where was it lost? And are you planning to pursue again?
Interesting. No, I'm not so sure I would want to pursue it again. And you know, the funny thing is, I was actually very shy, and you'd never say it now that I've spoken. I speak a lot at conferences and events, and I'm putting myself out there a lot more than I ever have before. But actually, I found drama, at a time where I was extremely shy, and at the time I was actually in a remedial school because I had, learning disabilities. So here's something to note. And at the time, they had a drama course at the school that I was put into, and the teacher recommended when I finished the course that I apply to art school and do drama full time. And drama was the best thing that I could have ever done. It opened my eyes, it built my confidence, because as you're learning to be different characters, you're learning different people are in different ways, and people have different ways of responding to things. And everybody has their strengths and their weaknesses. And so through that, I learned a lot about myself in the process of learning about others. And so that was really exciting. And yeah, I think I use a lot of the stuff I learned in drama in a very sort of maybe offbeat way in what I'm doing. Do I miss it? Yes, I would love to get involved maybe with the theatre community and do that. At some point. That's probably the closest I would get to it. It was never really about film for me, but acting in a live audience, I suppose, speaking and getting to speak to people in an audience, that aspect of it definitely is probably the closest I will get back to that. But yes, I absolutely loved doing drama. It's just a great way of escaping, but now I do that with writing.
That's fascinating, Larissa. I mean, do you have any memories of your first drama or any memorable drama or any memorable role that sometimes is maybe is the character that you always wanted to play, or you think that maybe that's the role I always wanted to be, or something, or a character that's very similar to who you are as a person?
Yes, the one that comes to mind is there's an Irish play called Dancing at Lunasa. Mm-hmm. And it's quite an involved play. It's quite long. It's a lengthy play that we provided. We had two main productions that we used to present at art school from a drama perspective. So you would have the big sort of spectacle in the theatre, and then we'd have the small theatre session. And I got to play the role of Chris, who was a single mother. And I had a scene where I had an imaginary son. Well, I had a son, but there was no actor playing the son. So I had to pretend having a conversation with somebody who wasn't there. And it's just a beautiful story about family in a difficult time set in the 1930s, trying to get through really sort of difficult times and family dramas, but a beautiful, beautiful story. And I guess that one stands for me because one, it was quite a challenging role, very different to. I mean, obviously, I was a kid, so I didn't have a child, and I certainly wasn't a single mom struggling in the 1930s. But at the time, we had in the audience the university. One of the universities commented that any of us in the actual play or production would be able to go to second year drama based on the standard of the play that we delivered. And so it was just such a huge compliment, but just also the kinds of bonding that you build when you're working with people and you're in character is absolutely incredible, because even though you're in character, you really are exposing various elements of yourself to people, and you literally work and practice and rehearse. After school we would rehearse until like 12 o'clock at night, and then you still had to continue to learn for school. And so it was an extremely rewarding experience for me.
That's brilliant. So if we are taking the other way around, and if we say if your life so far is being made as a drama, So which maybe, okay, if your life has been made as a drama, will it be a comedy, a romance, an action, or a fantasy?
I'd have to choose fantasy or adventure. I have my head always stuck in the clouds a little bit when it comes to fantasy. I absolutely love fantasies, but yes, I would definitely say more of an adventure.
That's brilliant. And do you prefer any actress playing your role?
Oh, if I had to choose an actress to play my role, I'm absolutely obsessed with Nicole Kidman. As you'll see with my picture, I'm a redhead, and I love and I'm obsessed with redheads. So yeah.
That's amazing. I think you did mention that from playing in dramas, you are now more into writing. And how is your attempt going on in writing the fantasy novel so far?
Yes, so I'm probably a little bit quite good. I'm on my first draft, but I've been on my first draft for a little while. So for me, I love the process of writing it. I'm enjoying it. I have my whole story jotted out. The characters they could be a real person I'm having a conversation with. They're so clear in my mind. But I think having something in your mind and putting it onto a piece of paper and to get it to where you want to, and maybe it's also just my confidence in this type of medium of writing, that I still think there's a lot more work to be done in terms of completing the document. So it's been taking me a while. But I think the other delay in terms of writing has been, obviously I decided to take this challenge of being an entrepreneur, which has put it back behind. But I've recently decided I have to be very disciplined with myself now and set time to finish it, as I've put a good few years already into writing the manual. And really now it's a matter of just editing, filling in the gaps, and then doing another review to make sure that it's consistent. And then give it to somebody else to review and give feedback, I think, is the next stage.
That's brilliant. So do you have an outline of the fantasy, or without kind of any outline of the fantasy?
Yes. No, it had. I like, as I mentioned, I've got the full story set up, and essentially the story is really about exploring, in my view, exploring if you weren't hindered by things that impact you in your past, or how your conception of life is based on different things that happen to you. If you didn't have that holding you back, and that you didn't have any sort of those kinds of memories or those kinds of baggage sitting with you, how you would interact with the world if you just had to live in the present. And so in my story, my character sort of wakes up in another world with no memory, and so she has no choice but to be just who she is and react to the situations as they happen. And that's kind of a very high level outline, but it deals with two different worlds to our own, and a world that sort of mirrors and watches over our world as sort of self-proclaimed guardians. So that's pretty kind of the very high level gist of it.
That sounds fascinating. So what inspired you to write a fantasy novel, Larissa?
I think pure escapism. Who does not like to escape once in a while? I think that's probably my guilty pleasure. And I think that's probably the aspect I enjoyed about acting. And, if I'm on my relaxed and chill time, I'm going to choose to pick up a fantasy novel where I can just escape. I don't want to necessarily deal with realism. I just want to sort of fall into this amazing world that is different. And so I guess that's what drew me to the fantasy, sort of a fantasy romance model. And that's the kind of sort of stories I like to read. So I think it's sort of a natural fit for me to write in sort of a genre. I'm hoping at some point, at one point, to publish it. But to be honest, I think the sort of story or the novel has really started off as a story just for me. It's kind of my thing. And I'm enjoying it. And hopefully that will translate into other people enjoying it. And As I mentioned, I need to start writing again, and I've set time aside now to start focusing on it, because it just makes me happy to do that. And these characters are in my head, so they want to get put down into paper, and so that's really what it's about.
Wow, I wish you all the very best, and we'll be so looking forward to have it published and happy to proofread it.
Thank you. I might take you up on it.
You mentioned that your favorite is also about romance as well. What's your favorite love story or a movie or a book?
I have to say, and it's going to be so cheesy, but The Notebook is absolutely beautiful. It's pretty much, and my sort of next favorite would be A Fault in Our Stars. You know, I just think that they are just absolutely incredible stories about the longevity of love, or love in under very difficult sort of circumstances. And I just think that both books are just written beautifully, absolutely beautifully. And yeah, I mean, it's, again, for me, I think it's, for me, a story is about the characters, and it's about the connection of people. I mean, that's what romance is really about. And isn't that what we try to do with Birds? And what we try and do in general is that people need to connect with people. It's our base psychology. And whether we have to do it online or face-to-face, you know, fundamentally, it is that everybody is looking to find somewhere where they belong or connect to, or they feel something for it. And for me, I just like stories that move me and, you know, take me a little out of myself, but allow me to connect to a character.
Wow, that's powerful. So moving from the stories to drawing and painting.
Yes.
So when did you start to draw and paint, Larissa, and how often do you create stuff?
Okay, so I try and do it as often as possible, and I am definitely an amateur when it comes to this. But I've been drawing and painting since I was absolutely little. Painting's a little bit new. I've started picking it up with my daughter. And I'm certainly think that drawing is a medium I'm more comfortable with, but I'm having fun painting and exploring with painting. And I've always just been very creative. I like to create and build things, you know, and I do a lot of building of projects with my daughter. I've decoupaged our side tables, you know, with a beautiful photograph that I redid of my daughter. And so, yeah, I just love making and being creative. And it's just about having fun. And again, escapism. Oh, this is becoming a common topic for me, I think. You know, it's good to create and it's good to make and build stuff. And you know, I think it's fun and it's something I love doing with my daughter. But again, I've always liked to do that from a young age, and it's certainly been something I've consistently kept up and have done.
That's classic. And is there any artwork that you're really proud of?
I actually still like some of the artwork I did when I was a teenager, and I still have a sort of portfolio of some of the drawings that I've done. And I will say I probably don't have a very realistic style of drawing. Mm-hmm. In my mind, it looks like it should look, but yeah, I think those are beautiful pieces. And I did a painting, one of my first paintings, which was a painting of a fairy that I'm pretty proud of how it came out.
And one of the things that you mentioned in the talk earlier on is your early career was in call centers. Do you mind sharing some of the tips of how to be nice in a phone?
Okay. Yeah, this is an interesting one, because actually one of the things I built as an ops manager is I built a soft skills training course. And we used to take our staff through the soft skills course. And specifically, you know, one of the things that you deal with in a call center is dealing with irate customers and managing that process. And, I think the first thing is that you've got to remember, and again, depending on what the job of your call center is, whether someone's phoning you for support or if you're phoning for a sales call, will depend on the attitude of whether somebody is talking to you because they need you to be understanding and helpful, or if you want to sell something to somebody that maybe doesn't necessarily want to be taking that call. You sort of have to understand the motivation and to not take things personally. In our call center, one of the biggest tips we used to take, and it sounds really silly, but we actually had little mirrors for the guys, and we would say we had the mirrors sort of just atop of their desk, so that we said, within doubt, always look at the mirror. If you're feeling upset or you're feeling that you're not being approachable or nice to a client, smile while you talk. Even though they can't see you on the other line, if you're smiling, people can feel that warmth. People can feel that sort of kindness coming across in terms of the messaging. But I think it's a little bit more involved in terms of that. I think it's the types of words that you use. It's about not sounding rehearsed. It's about being natural while still being able to maintain certain processes or to cover certain information that might be required from a regulatory perspective. It's if a customer is irate, it's about not taking things personally, because it isn't personal. And it's got a lot to do with the voice as well. So one thing that I used a lot in my call center days that I brought back from my drama is one of the subjects we studied in drama was voice. And, getting things across effectively has a lot to do with how you use the tone of your voice, your tone, your pitch, the volume of your voice, all play a huge role in terms of how you perceived over the phone, and using that effectively plays a major role in being an effective call center agent.
Wow, that's very, very, very useful, especially the mirror thing. I mean, I'm actually thinking, where is my mirror while I'm talking to you?
It's a nice tool because it sometimes just checks yourself to say, hey, I need to check how's my attitude actually coming across. Makes a big difference.
100%, Larissa. So now we are officially moving into the surprise rapid fire question round. Until now, it's more being nice to you.
Now, okay.
Quick question. So what superpower would you most like to have?
The ability to teleport.
Oh, nice. Okay. What do you wish people would stop asking you?
What is a bid manager?
Oh, interesting. What are you not very good at?
What am I not very good at? This is a tough one. What am I not good at? I would say finances.
Okay. If you had the opportunity to live 1 year of your life over again, which year would you choose?
That's a lovely question. I would say when I was 17, provided that I get to do it knowing what I know now.
It's a nice response. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm definitely a night owl.
Oh, nice. If you're having a bad day, what do you do to make yourself feel better?
I need to either create something and be creative and take myself out, either read a book, go lie down, or do yoga.
Okay. If you could go to the past or future, where would you stay and why?
If I could go to the past or the future. I would have said in the past previously, but I think with all the things that are happening in the world right now, I'd probably like to go to the future to kind of see where life is going.
How would you describe the proposal profession to your 10-year-old daughter?
Well, I must be honest, this one I'm stealing from John Williams because there's no better way to explain it. And this is exactly how I explained it to my 10-year-old daughter, is that really what we do is we help businesses to tell stories to help them to win businesses. And I can't think of anything better than talking about, about storytelling. I mean, that's kind of what acting is, proposal writing is all about, selling movies, all of that. I think storytelling is just what it's about.
Brilliant. So what are the design resources and tools you suggest for beginners?
The design resources and tools. Well, I absolutely love Canva. And Canva for this is this tool that I would suggest for small businesses and businesses that don't have the design capabilities. So it's a beautiful tool from that perspective. Yep. If businesses do have money and the right resources, InDesign is still, for me, probably the best design tool. But one mustn't underestimate the power of how effective PowerPoint is in being able to actually create designs. There is so many amazing options. There's a lot of free stock image sites that are incredible. There's a site called Envato that you can get access to videos, stock images, and various presentation templates and graphics that can really help make a really great impact. And certainly, looking at 24-Hour Company and billion dollar graphics has some incredible graphic tools and guidance and tips. Certainly are the ones that sort of come to mind straight away.
Oh, thank you for that. So what's the best thing about your home with your daughter and family, and have you taken time out recently to enjoy it?
The honest answer, probably not taken enough time out to enjoy it. But so far, that seems to be working for my daughter. She seems to be a little unaffected at the moment by lockdown. She's loving being able to have some screen time and actually doing school online. But certainly, we have been spending some time. We've been playing a lot more games. And it's been really interesting having, my husband and my daughter and all of us in the same environment together. It forces us to have dinner and games together more than we used to, and, sort of set these routines in place that I think are absolutely priceless and beautiful. My daughter is just an absolutely amazing character of note. She's just completely unique. She has a complete sort of offbeat sense of humor. She loves to sort of perform jokes all the time and dancing, and so that speaks so beautifully to what I love to do. So it's great to join her and doing that.
Oh, that's brilliant. And what are the 3 questions that you will ask your dog who's barking at the background?
The 3 questions I'd ask my dog. Okay, that's a good one. 1, what happens in the house when I'm not here? 2, what would they really like to eat, and are they not bored of eating the same food every single day? I have to say, I sometimes feel a little guilty that they need a little bit more variation. And I'd love to know what their dreams and aspirations are.
Perfect. Thank you, Larissa. So who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career?
Definitely my mom. My mom, as I mentioned, was a single mother. She had me when she was really young. So I kind of feel like my mom and I grew up together. We're very close. And she's always supported me, and she's always brought me up with that I can do and be anything that I want to be. And I think that's just helped build my confidence in my career as I've gone. Obviously my husband and my daughter are just, an incredibly great support system. And then, as I mentioned, Izan Hamilton, she was my mentor who helped me discover my passion for proposals. Sandy Pullinger and John Williams have been, I would say, probably the most influential. And then I've developed some great relationships with people who've been influential and have provided mentorship to me in my entrepreneurial journey now. People like Bill Graham, who's just been a great sounding board. Debbie Colhoun, who I've known from the APMP side of things. She runs a recruitment agency. And, Shirley, who runs a company called Admast, who's on our APMP committee, have built this beautiful sort of network for me. So, and, even more than that than I can mention, I'm actually incredibly amazed that since I decided to be an entrepreneur and take this sort of step, it's amazing to me when you start following and you're doing the things that you need to do in life, the universe almost responds and supports you in doing that. And I'm actually quite overwhelmed, just by the support of, previous colleagues. I mean, my previous team are absolutely incredible and have been a huge influence on me. And how people have just opened up and how people are willing to help and support and collaborate. And for me, that has just been absolutely encouraging and has helped, I think, one keep strong in this entrepreneurial journey. So, and I'm sure I'm still going to meet many, many, many more mentors as life goes on. And that's something for me that's extremely exciting.
Oh, that's brilliant, Larissa. So what's the best piece of advice you've received and from whom?
Good question. There's two pieces of advice that come in, and I'm not sure if I can place one first or the other. The one was when I was in my call center days, the HR manager at the time said to me that you've got to learn to take something and make it your own. So you don't have to go and recreate everything from scratch. It's about taking and understanding it, but then making it your own. It's not about plagiarizing or copying. It's about taking ideas from different people, different sources, and then making it something that works for you. The other amazing piece of advice that I got, funny enough, from a boss of mine that used to make me cry is the piece of advice he gave me is don't ever let anyone put you in a corner that you are not comfortable with. And I think that's an amazing piece of advice. Is I think sometimes we still always people do this. Is sometimes we are in control of how we feel and how we react to situations, and we should never. And so we should always we make that story or that narrative to ourselves. And so don't let anyone put you in a corner that you're not comfortable with. Is one of the great pieces of advice that I still try and work on and improve on every day.
Oh, that's lovely. So last one from me. What have you observed lately that reminded you that people are good?
Oh, so much. I think that, through everything that's going on, there is just so much incredible generosity and helpfulness that is going on. We're seeing people opening up their doors. I've seen people buy shopping and groceries. I've seen people create funds to support those people who don't have access to food within our country, to make sure that we are getting foods and essential goods to them over and above just the amount that the initiatives that government has put in place. I've seen people just go absolutely out of their way to just assist and help each other, to provide free webinars. There's just so much evidence and support and help that you can see now, where I don't think we've ever seen people come together so much, and in a South African context, more so than ever have we seen people sort of band together and support each other, and that's incredibly encouraging. So, but I've always believed people are good fundamentally, and I can be called naive, but that's how I choose to live life and see life anyway.
That's amazing. Thank you, Larissa.
But looking back, is there one thing that you wish you had known when you began your career?
Yes. The word no. I think that's probably been the most powerful lesson I've learned, is the word no. And it's interesting I say that. As much as I feel that I've gotten better at that, I kind of feel through my entrepreneurial journey, I'm relearning that lesson again. It's one of those that you have to constantly remember. And I think most of the proposal people I've met as well, I think it's in our nature to want to help, to add value. And I think sometimes we overextend ourselves, and we have to sometimes learn to say no. You know what? No, we're not good at everything. No, we can't always do things within a specific timeline to a specific standard. And we also we have to set our ground in terms of what we can accept for our own life-work balance. And so I think that's the best lesson. And I wish I'd known that or learned that a lot earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that some of us still struggle with on a day-to-day basis, and it's so powerful and so important, and it really helps us to find that balance and maintain our integrity in what we do. So again, we mentioned, all your achievements with APMP, with, the entrepreneurial journey, and a beautiful family. What are the accomplishments and achievements that you're most proud of?
So my daughter, she is my absolute love of my life. I don't, and the interesting thing is I didn't want children when I was younger, and I couldn't imagine my life without my daughter. She is absolutely incredible, and maybe others don't see it as an achievement, but I think it's one of those things that you're constantly working on as a parent. So you have your ups and downs in terms of that, but definitely that for me is the most important thing for me is definitely been her. And obviously I'm extremely proud of, where I am now in my career and my profession, and being able to now start sharing best practice advice that I used to listen to from others. Bungee jumping was a big one for me. Because I'm actually terrified of heights.
Oh, wow.
And when we went on a trip, none of my friends actually wanted to do it with me. So I jumped on my own, but I had set it in my mind, I'm doing it. And so I feel that because I've gotten over something that I was afraid of. For me, that was an achievement.
Oh, absolutely. Such a powerful feeling and sense of empowerment that I'm sure that gave you. And it kind of maybe let you know, you can get over anything, you can do anything.
And then I think that one of the big achievements, or for me, and luckily I'm glad now I'm in an opportunity where I get to do this more, is, where I've worked with people new, with interns and people new to the bid environment, and helped see how they've grown and built their career, which of course they've done through their own accord. But, where you get feedback from people to say, thank you, you've really helped me to grow, or to be passionate about this, or to take this forward as a career, and to be able to influence others to take their career or their profession forward, to be in a position where you've had some sort of impact or influence on people, I don't think there could be a greater feeling and greater achievement than that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But that's so rewarding when you get that feedback. So Larissa, what is something you're looking forward to in the future? What's next?
I like that. Yes, well, as Vasco mentioned, I think getting my book finally written, because like as I mentioned, it's been a few years in progress. It's a matter of just bedding down and doing it. The other aspect is that, from a maturity growth perspective in the South African market, from a proposal perspective, I'm really excited about the opportunity of being able to grow and expand nFold. Just to give you an idea, if you're looking at the UK, there was a report that came out that there's over 1,000 proposal consultancies. Well, in South Africa, there's maybe 3. And then you've got a few that are dealing with more just how to fill in tender forms and tender training, but not really proposal consultancy as we know it from a best practice perspective. And so there's a huge need and loads of areas to add value to businesses within this environment. So I'm really excited about being able to try and see how we can expand that so that nFold employs more people, but also helps and assists small businesses to uplift the standard of proposals that are going out to help win business more and more ethically. The other thing that I'm extremely passionate about is the whole governance, risk and compliance aspects around the bid process. And I'm actually working with Azan, my mentor. We're busy working on writing a book around that.
Wow.
So that's what I think it is. And then celebrating my daughter's achievements and growth so she grows through, I think, is something I'm certainly extremely excited as she goes through the milestones, because they just grow so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to that book that you're working on, both of them. So you'll have to keep us posted as those progress. And I'm sure that you're looking forward to this time with your daughter during this lockdown and all the extra time you get to spend with her, but eventually letting her back out into the world and seeing her grow and accomplish those milestones as she progresses forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Larissa. Is there any part of your life or career that we haven't touched, Larissa, that you might want to go back and spend 1 or 2 minutes on?
I think we've done a good, thorough deep dive in terms of the aspects. I think we've really touched on a nice broad basis in terms of the areas that we've covered. But I've been fortunate that I've both through my call center operations career and bid career that I have gotten to work with so many industries. I can honestly say I'm vendor agnostic. From ICT to industrial to health services to bid office processing, different types of businesses, small, medium, large, different types of maturities and different types of approaches. And I think the advice, for people growing and doing their careers, and especially, the younger guys that are coming in who are not sure what to do, go and experience and do everything, because every bit of experience, including catering and waitering when I was a kid, babysitting, modeling, all of these things that you do in life, it all ultimately teaches you lessons that you use and learn as you go through life and in your different career aspects and the weirdest times and moments. But they all add value to who you become and how effective and what value you will provide eventually.
It's beautifully said, Larissa. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed it. And it's been a real privilege to have you with us at Scribble Talk. Wish you all the good health and happiness. Please do continue to inspire bid and proposal colleagues, not just in South Africa, but worldwide. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, and keep inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You guys stay safe and healthy, and safe too.
Thank you.
And keep doing the same. I think this podcast is a great initiative.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchyscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundram,
signing off.